Hey, welcome to another McBike and Sport fly tying video. Today we are going to be tying a reverse hobo spey. So I'm sure lots of people have heard of the hobo spey, which why they called it a spey I have no idea because it doesn't look like a spey fly whatsoever. But anyways, that's what it's called, and I'm sure some people have also heard of another fly called the Reverse Maribou Tube fly. So this is basically a combination of the two, and we're going to tie it on a shank. So I've got some black 6/0 thread. First thing we're going to do is we're going to ring up our stinger hook. So we're tying on a shank. So we're going to start off. Now what you want to do when you do these is see how I've got this set up. So you want it so that it is of the length that you can just barely change out the hook. Just like that. You don't want to go longer than that because it's not necessary, and big long trailing hook, according to some people, may do more injury to the fish, and we certainly don't want to do that. So I'm just going to put that hook in place and pull it back. And this little thing that I'm putting on here is actually really handy for tying. It's called a plastic earring backer basically. And I just find you put that on there, and I don't know how many times I've caught my thumb or something on a hook when I'm tying if I'm moving material back, and with these really nice sharp owner hooks, you tend to do a pretty good little job on the hand. So put that on there, it avoids that problem. So I like to, when I'm tying in stingers, I like to run the excess wire. So this is Senyo's intruder wire, by the way. I like to run it through the eye of the hook. It's going to make a slightly bigger head, but it really doesn't matter too much, but I think it provides a little bit more extra security. Okay, so tie that down good and snip off your excess wire. Make sure you use an old pair of scissors for this job because obviously this is wire, or you can use wire cutters. I just prefer to use an old pair of scissors. I find they do just fine. Okay, and now normally I would also then put a layer of head cement on there and let that set up. And I find that way you've got a pretty bomb-proof setup that's not going anywhere. Okay, so now that we've got our shank secured, we're just going to whip finish that off. Just going to do a hand whip finish. And the reason we're going to do that, we're going to flip this around in the vise, and we still want our thread to be going the proper way. So whip finish, like I said, normally I'd throw some head cement on here at this point. So now we're going to take this out of the vise. We're tying a reverse fly, which means everything is going to be tied on in reverse order, sort of backwards, and that's going to give us a lot of movement in our fly. So just secure that in there. Just going to rotate the vise a little bit so it's facing you still. Okay, now we're just going to reattach our thread, and the first material we're going to be tying in is Lady Amherst, which when the fly is all done will be actually at the head of the fly. So you can either tie this in as a dubbing loop, so take you can kind of take a wide piece of your Lady Amherst, put it in a dubbing loop, spin it, and then you have to kind of pick through it with a bodkin, separate it all out. But I prefer just to tie in some clumps with it when I'm doing it on this sort of setup. So it doesn't make a lot of difference, but if you want this to finish with the shiny or good side of the feathers out, you have to tie it with the bad side facing up, and that's because when we're all done, this is going to get folded over like that. So each piece you put in, just put on 1 or 2 wraps because we're going to be tying in several of these. So keep them about the same length, just a wrap or 2 to hold it in place, and then spin it to the next one. Now when you've got an up eye sort of shank like this, when you rotate it in your vise, it's going to do some funky things. But more just that you see that on the camera than it's any actual problem. So one more there. And then I'm just going to tie in, I think, 2 more. So basically, I tie 2 at a time, sort of in 4 positions on the fly. It's not too critical where they all line up. Just want decent coverage. Okay, and bring your thread all the way up to where the head's going to finish off. Make sure that as you bring it forward, your Amherst stays well spaced. You don't want it to kind of tighten up. Alright, and that's going to be the head of our fly. So our next material is going to be some blue marabou. This is going to be a black and blue fly, good for this time of the year. So I've got my marabou feather. I've pulled all the extra fluff off the bottom. Now we're going to tie this in as if we were tying a fly that this was the head. So everything's going to be pointing backwards in that direction. Now the whole point of that is that when this gets in the current, so everything's going to be sort of sweeping back the wrong direction. When it gets in the current will push everything back the way it would normally sit. But because it has that natural curve to it facing this way, it's all going to pulse a lot more. You'll see better once we get the whole fly tied off what I mean. So I'm just going to bring this a little bit more forward and tidy up some of this excess marabou I've got, or excess Amherst, and I'm going to fold the tip back and fold everything back here and work my way back. That's always a good way to build a durable fly, by the way, if you take your materials and fold them back. It does build up a little extra bulk, yes, but in particular on this type of fly, it doesn't really matter. We're going to cover that up with the body material anyways, so we're not too concerned about that. Okay, how are we looking there? An extra little piece of Amherst there. There we go. Okay, so then you're going to tie in your marabou, same as you normally would. I kind of like to wet down my fingers, fold it, sweep it all back. Okay, and each wrap you take, just keep folding that material back. And we don't want a ton of this, but we do want to get into the longer pieces. So just maybe one more. Still not happy with the fullness there, so we'll give it one more wrap. It's looking pretty decent now. So you don't want to use a ton of it because you are going to put on 2 different colors of marabou. So just pull off. Sorry, we're losing focus. Okay, pull off our extra fluff. And then lock that down. Fold it all back. A couple more wraps. And then you can snip your tip. Okay, so like I was saying, this is black and blue. There's going to be some black go on after this, but I like to put the flash in between. So we're going to be using a combo of black and blue flash. So okay, so we've got our black flashabou, and I'm just going to wrap that in the string, in the thread. It's a nice easy way to get that done. Get it started, fold it over and bring it down, and that way I can work it around the shank. I'm going to take 3 more pieces, and with the flashabou, sometimes there are times when you want to fish a fair amount of flash on your fly, and other times you don't want quite as much. What I find the best way to go about it is to tie it in as thick as you would maybe want to fish it. And then if you want to fish it a little bit thinner, what you can actually do is just pull some flash out on the river. So when you're there, if you decide you want to go a little bit thinner, a little less flash, just take some scissors on the river, or else just pluck it out so that you can thin it right down after that. So there's our black flash. Now we're going to tie in a little bit of blue. Same deal, 3 strands, fold it over, another 3 strands, fold it back. Okay, and again, the easiest way to start this, bring it up your thread like that, and then just wrap it around. Okay, one wrap, fold the whole works over and bring it down a bit so that you're changing the position of the second bunch. And we're going to wrap in another 3 on the bottom and just tidy that up a little bit. I find this a little bit difficult working this close to the vice jaws, but that's what happens when you do these reverse ones. And then you can take all your flash and just trim it off the excess at the back. Okay, so you can see here we've got a fly that basically looks like any normal sort of shank fly we might tie. It's all heading backwards in this direction. So next one we're going to put on is our black marabou. Same deal, I've got the feather already prepped. Tie that in by the tip. Fold the tip back. And you can either clip off that tip, or sometimes I don't even bother, you just leave it in there with the rest of the mix. Okay. Wet your fingers. Tip was a little weak, I guess. I'll try that in again. Live fly tying. We're making mistakes. Okay, so applied a little much pressure. The tip part was a little thin. Tie our black marabou in. So this reverse technique, really you can apply this to just about any fly you want. Works best, obviously, well, not any fly, but lots of marabou type flies. Works best with something like marabou where you've got a soft flowing hackle. It doesn't work so well with things where you've got a stiffer hackle. Definitely isn't going to work, obviously, with more classic sort of flies. Okay, so okay, move everything back. We're just going to tidy this up a little bit. Okay, so the next piece is we've got a guinea feather that's going to be palmered down the body. So I have a nice blue guinea feather here somewhere. There we go. Okay, so the next piece is a blue guinea feather. You can use white too. Here's another one of these that I tied, and I used a natural. I thought it looked pretty good, but I'm going to stick with matching the body color for now. So guinea is a reasonably stiff feather, so it's really going to prop up everything. So when you're dealing with marabou, the issue is marabou always just sort of, you get it in the current and it all just completely collapses. So one, we're dealing with that by using this reverse style, and two, we're giving it a bit of a prop with this guinea. So we're going to tie that in, and then we're going to dub the body. So for the body, I'm using a combination of a blue seal's fur and a light bright. And you just basically take a clump of each, not with the marabou, and work them back and forth between your fingers. And then that sort of blends them. It's a little hard with the light bright because it's kind of a longer fiber. You can chop it up with scissors first a bit if you want. It's just to give the fly a little bit more flash. Really, the body portion, not too important in this particular fly. Okay, so dub that onto your thread. The way I like to dub, start with spinning, do 1-2 wraps just to get it caught in, and then you can tighten up if you want, because now you've got something that's holding your noodle down. You could also use a dubbing loop if you prefer. I find these just as quick to do up a noodle. Okay, pull off your excess, and here's where you see the light bright kind of doing its thing. Okay, now we're going to take that guinea feather, fold your hackle. You can either try and pinch it in half like that, or the other thing you can do, if you take the back of your scissors and run it fairly firmly up each side of the hackle, each side of the stem, pardon me, that will also fold it. And palmer that backwards, or we'll do, actually, sorry, because this is, you have to think backwards. So this is the head. We're going to give it 1 wrap here first, 1 full wrap, just to provide that prop that I was talking about, and then we're going to start working it back. Palmer the whole thing back, making sure we're not trapping the fibers. Keep folding it on our way back. There we go. And then we're going to tie this off at the end. Fold your stem back and secure that in. Okay, so now this is where we're going to finish off the fly. It is the rear of the fly, but this is where we're going to finish it off. So you just want to tidy it up a little bit and give it a few decent wraps to make sure that everything's going to be secure. And then whip finish. And of course, you would put some head cement on here as well. And this is where a hand whip finish comes in handy when you've got all this extra stuff you're trying to get around and manipulate through. Okay, so there's our finished fly. So you're probably thinking, man, that looks like a dog's breakfast. So you can see what we've got going on. When this gets into the water, it's actually going to fish this way. So everything is going to pull back as the current hits it, like this. Okay? But the natural tendency of the fibers, because of the way we tied them in, so this is how it's going to fish, is to pull back. So like I said, it does look quite ugly, and obviously we're going to snip off the excess amount of this material. So I'm just going to pull this out of the vise, see if I can show you a little better what I'm meaning here. Okay, so here's our fly. Like I was saying, it is just this crazy dog's breakfast. Now when we start fishing this, everything is going to fold back. Okay, so this is how it's going to go through the water. But because we've tied it in all reverse, the natural tendency of that is just to pop back out. So what happens here is, as it hits the slower portions of the current, it's going to pull back out, and as it hits the faster parts, this is going to push down. So you get a lot more pulsing action from your fly, and you'll also get a bigger profile. It's not going to collapse as much. So I know it looks pretty ugly like this, but I think the big thing is take it, put it in the water, and see what it looks like, and I think you'll be quite impressed with the finished fly.